And so constructivism is that all children are the creators of their own knowledge. And that knowledge increases when they learn together as a group.
When someone first learns to read, they build neural circuitry that is reflective of the nature of the interaction they have in the environment in which they learned it. So a child who teaches himself or herself to read without ever having been taught cannot possibly figure it out wrong, because there's no one intervening trying to tell the brain how to do it. The brain is figuring out for itself how to do it. And actually, that's the only way process can be learned, because of the implicit nature. The main event of a process will always be below the level of conscious awareness. So it can't be explicitly taught. The brain has to figure it out on its own. But the danger is, if someone tries to explicitly teach it, it's very possible, I would even say probable, that you would give misinformation to the brain, because it is so incredibly complex that you couldn't possibly know what the brain is supposed to do. And it's operating implicitly, and so the brain needs to keep it implicit. So if you can explicitly tell someone how to do a process, you can pretty well be guaranteed that the information will be erroneous.
My B helper in continuing verb to die as my propositional phrase.
The thing she stressed about is we're growing dendrites every time we're learning something new, and to keep learning, and there are little veins coming out, and this getting more and more.
When we use our brain, the dendrites, they're like trees. Our brain is growing like a tree, and our branches are growing, and our mind is expanding. And my mind has really expanded in the last 3 months here.
No, I think I would never get out would be a prepositional.
So you know what the problem is? The teacher is up. Let's say the teacher has big, thick, full neural networks, that i.e. comprehension, understanding, depth, insights, and so on. Teachers here, students are here. The teacher thinks if I just tell them, then they will understand it if I explain it clearly and so on. Well, that doesn't work, because we cannot put our dendrites into their brains. They have to grow their own. And they grow their own by doing their own thinking, problem solving, exploring, figuring it out themselves. So there's a gap. Only those students who have grown some already from previous experiences and are close will literally catch on and start growing the new thing. But students who haven't any background, they don't have the dendrites, because you have to have the prerequisite foundation, preliminary dendrites to be ready to grow the new ones up that are at a higher level.
See, the deficit model says there's something missing. So that says that you can't figure it out because you suffer from the deficit. I can't figure it out because I suffer from the deficit. A Latino can't figure it out because they also suffer from a deficit. So that says we can figure it out. And so we're going to fill that deficit by saying, here is how you learn. Now, the history of that goes back to behavioristic psychology. That's one reason why books are set up the way they are, curricula are set up the way they are. It's kind of like your spoon-fed small bits, and you have to regurgitate it. That's why the classroom is set up into 45-minute periods. And once that stuff gets ensconced in material reality, it's hard to, get rid of that and stuff. And that's what we're fighting against.
The craze for theorizing, which has dominated the history and English, literary studies, especially in the last 30 years. For many people, that movement in the humanities, many people would say, has really fatally weakened the humanities, because it's driven a lot of people away from something that used to have one of the most important humanizing factors in the whole educational system. Let's look at ways in which, in a contemporary America, there are appropriate ways to have higher education once again serve the common good. The vision of the first graduate schools, the vision of the colonial colleges, the vision of the land-grant institutions.
Yeah, and part of the problem, of course, is that when you come up with a paradigm that is in contradiction to the accepted paradigm, you are challenging the expertise of everyone who accepts the original paradigm. And people have spent years and years and years building the neural circuitry in their brain that has the knowledge and all of the how-to around their field and whatever that gives them that expertise. And then this new paradigm comes along, and everything they know isn't totally thrown out. You don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, but much of what they knew is no longer accurate if you accept the new paradigm. And it takes a lot of courage to say, that's okay, and help me learn this new stuff. It takes a lot of courage for people to do that. But there are always people who will. I mean, there are always people who say, oh, this makes so much sense, and oh, I can think of those kids that I have had that if I'd only known this, I could have helped them, and I couldn't help them before.
But it talks about the fact you go into the classroom and you are not, they use that idea called sage on the stage. Well, you're not the sage on the stage. Okay, you're someone who has to work with what the kids want to learn and then help them move toward their aha moments because they're little inventors, right? And then you can be a guide, you can be a coach and a facilitator. But this idea, and you will be a co-learner. And that's how it changes that relationship from I'm up here, I'm a content expert, I know what I'm talking about, and it's either right or wrong.
Just about the same way for me in high school. They read out of the text, that's all you were given. I mean, I can read that myself. I can read the directions, the instructions myself, but I wanted to hear what they thought, but I never got their opinion. So I had to, basically, it was self-taught more or less with a teacher there, so that didn't help out very much. And when I did ask for, instructions, it was, the text says here, let's see what the text says, and still I'm stuck. But it's not like that in Jamie's class. It's a lot different. Yeah. And I appreciate her method to teach the way just teaching the way she does.
So the child who figures it out on his own, there's no chance his brain will figure it out wrong. And the world is full of kids, a small percentage, but a large number of kids who do figure out reading on their own with no formal instruction. And 100% of those kids read absolutely excellently. They never have comprehension problems. They never read in that ugly, awful way that kids who are taught to read when they first start reading. And that's how the brain can do it.